What's goody to any and everybody who may be listening? Okay? I'm going to be calling my energy light sparks and soul fragments back from these old video games. Now, I'm going to try to go in chronological order or in linear order just so that I can remember them all. Hopefully I don't forget nothing. But spirit, you already know, if I forget something, hunt it down, track it down, and take our light sparks and fragments up out and bring them on home because we can surely use them. Now let's go in order. First things first was the Nintendo. So let's go ahead and go up in the Nintendo itself. The technology of a Nintendo. Go up in the Nintendo, up in the controllers. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, and trapped up in the Nintendo system, and I'm talking about all of them, and the controllers, and every single game are released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on home to the mother, the father, and the child in one body. Okay? Now, there was this specific game. Now, I forgot the name of this game, but I used to play this game all the time. Now, this game is very special because I was still connected, excuse me, to my counterpart at this time, and there was something about us, like it's sort of like we played the game together in some way. It kind of was telepathic though, this game. I don't know if it was G.I. Joe, but it's something like that. It was like an adventure game where I had to go through this, travel through this, and kill these men on the way, and you know. But I forgot the name of it. Let's go ahead and call our energy back from this game. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, and trapped within that game that I used to play all the time. The first game I used to play, aside from Mario Brothers, and we're going to be getting on Mario too, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay, now let's move on to Super Mario Brothers. The same system, the Nintendo, Super Mario. Let's take our last right here. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, or trapped within Super Mario Brothers, the video game, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Now, I did forget about the Atari, what's that called? The Natari? I think it's the Natari. Let's go ahead and call our lights right for that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, and trapped within the Natari, or however the fuck you pronounce that shit, the Natari, and even Game Boys, and even handheld Segas, but we're going to be getting into all of that, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now let's move on to the Super Nintendo. There was a barrage of games, a lot of games. But first, let's call it back from the Super Nintendo as a whole. I decree and declare that all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, and trapped within the Super Nintendo itself. And I'm talking about the technology of the Super Nintendo and the controllers and everything. Are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? As well as the games. Let's get into Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario 2, excuse me, Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 2, and I believe Mortal Kombat 3. Either way, we're going to be getting into all of the Mortal Kombats as we move along into the game systems as they started to evolve. Okay, but those games, I decree and declare that all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments, are coming the fuck up out of the aforementioned games: Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Kart, Mortal Kombat, the whole entire series, 1, 2, 3, and so forth and so on, are removed, released, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. And particularly, especially focus on Mortal Kombat 2 because that was huge. That game, I played that game like, as well as Street Fighter. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments caught up within the game Street Fighter and even Pac-Man, since I forgot to mention it with the Atari, are released, removed, and even Tetris are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay, now let's move on to Sega. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, or trapped within the midst of Sega itself. I'm talking about the technology of a Sega, and go up in it, all the parts, the hard drive, the controllers, and snatch our light sparks and bring them back home. Are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now let's name some games. Sonic, especially Sonic. I'm now talking about every single one. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Tails, every single Sonic. As well as Street Fighter, every single edition of Street Fighter, as well as Mortal Kombat, every single edition of Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3, Trilogy, Anthology, 4, 5, you know, so forth. So everyone are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now, there was this game system by the name of a 3DO, which was gifted to me by someone, by some dude that Sharita was dating. I forgot. I think his name was Al. He gifted that to me, and I just gotta go ahead and call. I forgot the games that I had on it, but let's call it back for all of it. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that had gotten caught up, lost, or trapped within the midst of that 3DO game. 3DO. And all of the games that I had on it, I ain't had many, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Me. Okay? Now let's get on down to the PlayStation, okay? My first, and here's a story. My first experience with a PlayStation was down at Ralph's house. Okay, and the first game I played on it was that Crash Bandicoot. So let's go ahead and call out Lightsparks back from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of the PlayStation as a whole, the technology of a PlayStation, the controllers, the hard drive, everything, and that game Crash Bandicoot, all released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now, additional games on the PlayStation, of course, all the Mortal Kombats. All of the Mortal Kombats, from Mortal Kombat 1 to the last one. All of the Street Fighters, from the first one to the last one. I believe I played a game by the name of Soul Calibur. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, trapped within the midst of any of those games that I just named, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now, of course, there were more, but I cannot remember all of them. Okay, so Spirit, hunt them on down and bring our Lightsparks on back now. Okay. Now let's get into the Xbox. The Xbox. Okay, where I was introduced to the Xbox through that old Morris Williams with that big old fat butt he got and that slew foot, honey. I was introduced to the Xbox through Morris. Now, I can't lie, Morris was my best friend at that time, even though he was an agent, a satanic agent. We had fun together. You know what I'm saying? We stayed playing video games and smoking reefer and things of this nature. One of the games we played the most was Halo. Now, I really couldn't stand Halo because I was always losing and things. But let's go ahead and call our Lightsparks back from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, or trapped, stolen within the midst of it being myself and Morris playing these games together and bonding in that way, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up within the technology of the Xbox in general, not in the Xbox 2, 3, or whatever, the Xbox 360, I don't know however, any and all game consoles are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay, now let's get on to some of these games that we played. Aside from Halo, there was Soul Calibur. Now, we stayed playing Soul Calibur, and I stayed whooping that ass, of course, because, you know, those fighting games, now those are my games. Now, Soul Calibur. Now, any of the characters within Soul Calibur, any and all of those characters, go up in them, snatch my light sparks up out them and bring them on back home. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, trapped, stolen within the midst of Soul Calibur, and any of the characters on that game, any of the stages and the boards are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. We also played Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive 3. Christy was my favorite character. I used to fuck him up with Christy. So let's go ahead and snatch out. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, trapped, stolen within the midst of Dead or Alive 3, the video game on Xbox, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Now, I think I'm going to end this here. I don't have to go through and say, I am going, let's say one more NBA Live. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the game NBA Live, NBA Jams, any game. Again, any and all games on any and all consoles, any and all game consoles. I don't have to mention it. Just go up in all of it. Snatch up my light sparks and bring them on back home where they belong. Thank you. Bye-bye.